for alleged fraud. Now, according to the Daily Mail, surprise, surprise, it's been revealed he's entangled in a sixth FBI probe. Paul and at least 3 of his associates were interviewed multiple times as part of a 5-year scheme involving bribes for building permits in exchange for kickbacks. One of those properties ended up being a property owned by Paul's girlfriend. Paul was allegedly trying to get permits and get rid of violations for the troubled residential hotel his girlfriend owned. She's an ex-girlfriend now, obviously. A former property manager told the Daily Mail that the building was a hub for drug taking and prostitution, crawling with rats, roaches, and lice. Paul Jr. has been linked to the property for decades. The building used to have a massage therapy clinic, which Paul Pelosi Sr. and Nancy would go to frequently in the 1990s and 2000s. Was that for a couples massage? None of my business. Joining me now, senior reporter for the Daily Mail, Josh Boswell. So, Josh, what I'm interested in are the kickbacks, not the massages, because the FBI is always interested in the financial side of things, and that's easier to follow the money. Do you think that there's real exposure for Paul Pelosi Jr., or PP Jr., as we call him here?
Yeah, I think potentially there is. The way that I came across this was looking into just a local, what seemed like a normal local corruption case, you know, cash kickbacks for building permits. And then I saw that, hang on, Paul Pelosi Jr. is heavily involved in this property. The thing that is really interesting about this is that in the charges that the feds leveled against this building inspector and the guy who was allegedly paying the bribes, he has this client who he's working for. They only name him as Client 9, but then I've spoken to a lot of people who say that the FBI were interviewing Paul Pelosi Jr., his friends, his business associates about this property. It looks very much like Paul Pelosi Jr. might be that client number 9 who is in a bribery scheme. There are these texts that are in the charging documents that the feds got hold of, which are quite astounding. You've got the guy who's trying to solicit the bribes, saying, all right, I can get this permit sorted if you send a $1,000 check. And then this client 9 then actually ends up sending a $1,500 check.
Oh.
We don't know for sure that that's Paul Pelosi Jr., but the fact that the feds are crawling around everyone he knows seems to point towards him.
Yeah, you don't want to be client number 9 again. That was Spitzer's moniker. That was dirty. And it is interesting that Pelosi's son and the president's son, both under federal investigation. I'm just wondering if they're being blackmailed by law enforcement. I don't know. It's very coincidental, but we'll stay on it. Thank you very much, Boswell. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Black Lives Matter